Rumpelstiltskin. There was once a poor miller who had a beautiful daughter, and one day, having to go speak with the king, he said, in order to make himself appear of consequence, that he had a daughter who could spin straw into gold. The king was very fond of gold, and thought to himself, "That is an art which would please me very well." And so he said to the miller, "If your daughter is so very clever, bring her to the castle in the morning, and I will put her to the proof." As soon as she arrived, the king led her into a chamber which was full of straw, and giving her a wheel and a reel, he said, "Now let yourself go to work, and if you have not spun this straw into gold, by an early hour tomorrow you must die." With these words he shut the room door and left the maiden alone.
There she sat for a long time, thinking how to save her life, for she understood nothing of the art whereby straw might be spun into gold, and her grief became stronger and stronger, till at last she began to weep. All at once the door opened, and in stepped a little man, who said, "Good evening, fair maiden, why do you weep so sore?" "Ah," she replied, "I must spin this straw into gold, and I am sure I don't know how." The little man asked, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "My necklace," said the maiden. The dwarf took it, placed himself in front of the wheel, and whir, 3 times around, and the bobbin was full.
When the maiden was left alone, the dwarf again appeared, and asked for the 3rd time, "What will you give me to do this for you?" "I have nothing left that I can give you," sighed the maiden. "Then promise me your firstborn child if you ever become queen," said he. The miller's daughter thought, "Who can tell if that will ever happen?" And ignorant how else to help herself out of her trouble, she promised the dwarf what he desired, and he immediately set out about and finished the spinning. When morning came and the king found all he had wished for done, he celebrated his wedding, and the fair miller's daughter became queen.
I saw there a little house, and before the door a fire was burning. And round this fire a very curious little man was dancing on one leg and shouting, "Today I stew, and then I'll bake. Tomorrow I shall the queen's child take. Ah, how famous is that nobody knows that my name is Rumpelstiltskin." Rumpelstiltskin. There was a poor miller who had a daughter, and the miller wanted to impress the king. So he told the king that he had a daughter who could spin straw into gold. And the king liked gold very much, so he took the miller up on his offer to have his daughter spin straw into gold.
One day the miller's daughter was in her room crying, and when she heard a knock at her door, and she opened the door, and it was a little man, and he said, "Why are you crying?" And she said, "I have to turn the straw into gold." And he said, "What would you give me if I did it for you?" And she said, "My necklace." And so he did it for her, and she gave him the necklace.
There was a maiden and a dwarf, and he wanted something in return for doing something, and that was spinning straw into gold. And she said she could not give him anything else. So he said, "Then promise me your firstborn child when you become queen." She said yes. She became queen, and yeah.
She saw a small house with a fire burning, and she saw a little man dancing around on one leg, and he was shouting that he would stew and bake, and he was going to take the queen's child, but nobody knew that his name was Rumpelstiltskin.